Says we're alive. I don't know if I believe it or not, though.
Maybe we're live.
Maybe we're live. We'll
No,
find out.
15
We'll find
minutes
out
of
real
trying to
quick.
regulate the sound of people saying they can't hear it. We're live. I can see it.
That's good. It didn't go off of the one I set up. Well, that's fine.
I can see it.
You are right. We are live. So, what's going on, fellas? Thanks everybody for joining in on the live stream. We'll go ahead and make sure that we're good on the audio end, and then we'll go ahead and get rolling. Yeah, Matt or Matthew, which one you go by?
Matt.
Matt. All right. The Alaskan Viking on with us tonight, so super excited about it. Alaska is one of the coolest places, and Matt is definitely living it out there. So we got some cool stuff to talk about.
I'm not going to tell my wife that we're live streaming because last week or 2 weeks ago, she freaking super chatted $10 to Jordan. What the heck is that? I saw a super chat. I'm like, cool, Jordan got a super chat. And I thought it was my wife. Super chatting Jordan $10 for.
I need it, man. I gotta pay off that bus.
Gotta pay off that bus. That's right.
Not really, but yeah. What's up, Parker? What's up, Dad? Let's go ahead and let people let us know if you can hear us well. If you can hear Elliot and Matt on an equal level with me, or if I need to go in and start adjusting stuff.
Little known secret, Jordan intentionally raises the volume of his mic to drown me out.
His mic always sounds better, right?
Better and louder.
Yeah,
and he buys the equipment. He controls the volume.
So my theory is, I just need to be able to, anytime Elliot starts saying stuff about modified chokes or anything, I gotta be overpowering and and go with that.
Yeah. Cut to commercial.
Yeah. Everyone, little known secret. We'll stick on the same line. Little known secret. Elliot is a modified choke shill, so he's on their.
I do use a modified choke.
He's on their payroll, and
on their payroll, the modified choke company, the modified choke company,
also known as the Illuminati.
In my heart of hearts, I want to shoot improved.
Yeah. What's up, Kevin?
I posted it on the fellowship.
Awesome. We're not getting confirmation yet on mic levels, and I hate having to stop when we start going. So we'll give it a little bit. We're going to be talking about a lot of exciting Alaska stuff. So once we get rolling, we can't.
You got questions? You got any questions? Drop them on there.
And if I don't have an answer, I'll pretend like I do.
Yeah, just lie, just make stuff up. That's what I do. I just start saying stuff.
As long as you sound confident with it, most people believe it.
Yeah, sound confident and try to instill emotion, whether you believe it or not. No, not true. That's not true.
All right. How's frame rate and audio sounding, fellas, in the live stream right now?
I'm hearing everybody great.
Awesome. We got Thomas Johnson from the Great Northwest Public Duck Blind. Good evening, gentlemen. What's up, man? Thanks for stopping by. I guess we're going to just go ahead and jump on into it.
Let it rip.
Alrighty. Here we go with the intro.
Hey guys, I'm Jordan Fromer. I believe in hunting hard, hunting smart, and having a fun time while doing it. And shooting limits, well, that's just the icing on the cake. I revel in the journey just as much as the successes it brings. From ducks to dogs to decoys and guns, we'll be talking tactics, strategies, and what it takes to get the job done. Load up and take aim. This is the Duck Gun Podcast.
What's going on, folks? Thanks for joining me on another episode of the Duck Gun Podcast. I'm Jordan from Duck Gun Chronicles. Got my co-host alongside me, Elliot, the Ductator from Freelance Duck Hunting, and our guest tonight is Matt, the Alaskan Viking. How you doing tonight, Matt?
I am doing fantastic. How are you guys doing?
Oh, I'm doing great. Postseason depression really hasn't kicked in too much yet, so I think I can still say that for a little while, hopefully. And spring's just around the corner, so I think I'm doing pretty good. Definitely excited. We got you on. We've been actually talking for a while. I've been in the back of my mind. I knew I wanted you on for the podcast for a while, but we've been talking for a while about other things. So I'm excited that we got you on. We got some awesome topics. We talked about it earlier, some of the topics. We got some awesome topics we're going to cover tonight, all about Alaska. So I'm excited for that.
Absolutely. I'm excited to let it out there. So
awesome. Well, I guess let's go ahead and jump right into it. Jump into the juicy details. So I guess let's start with how did you get into waterfowl hunting growing up?
Well, I grew up. I actually was raised in Montana, and that's where a lot of my hunting started. Waterfowl hunting just happened to be one of the first ones I got into because of the fact that you only had to be 16 to do it by yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents didn't hunt. I had my aunt and uncle, they did a lot of hunting, but they were off doing their own thing. And so I just fell into duck hunting and, fell in love with it. And so Montana was where it all started for me, chasing ducks down rivers and ponds, and it just became an obsession.
Awesome. So kind of starting off, sounds like 16. Were you kind of doing solo adventures? You going on your own, or what was?
I feel like the people now, they have YouTube to watch, they have videos to watch. I had the back of a Primos card that told you kind of how to use the call. there were videos of how to do this. There was Field and Stream magazine, Ducks Unlimited magazine, and that's all I had to do. That's all I had in order to learn how to waterfowl hunt. So it was a real learning curve for me when I was younger, to learn how to do it. It took me. I'm going to go ahead and say this. I'm not ashamed of it. It took me 2 years to finally shoot a duck. Because I had zero knowledge of chokes. I had zero knowledge of how much to lead them. I had zero knowledge of anything. I was completely green. But once I got it figured out, man, it just snowballed out of control, and it's been, awesome ever since.
That's
So would you consider waterfowling your number one pursuit? Because I know you do a lot of stuff that we're going to talk about, but is waterfowling your number one game, or is that just one of the many pursuits for you?
I would say whatever's in season is my number one at the time. I love all of it. There's not just one thing. Waterfowl is a huge passion of mine, but trapping is a huge passion of mine. Moose hunting is a huge passion of mine. I'm addicted to all of it.
Awesome. So that's pretty. Honestly, it's a pretty similar story to me. I'm getting started off, rough beginnings. just kind of winging it and figuring it out. And it can be difficult, and it's awesome, the kind of to see that we have resources out there where new hunters can kind of pick it up nowadays compared to back in the day. Because at least I had YouTube videos, and kind of funny story along those lines. I was actually watching Elliot's videos when I, to try to figure stuff out. So
I was mentoring little Jordan without even knowing.
Yeah, it's pretty funny, right?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh, that's funny.
But yeah, so Montana, definitely a bucket list state. Another one for me. But you kind of even one up it when you moved on out of there. So what was the decision behind moving from Montana to Alaska?
Well, as I was, growing up and going through high school, my aunt and my uncle, who, hunted and fished all over the place, used to come up to Alaska every fall and, go moose hunting and salmon fishing. And they'd come back with all these pictures and stories about how wild Alaska is. And so after I graduated high school, I recontacted with a buddy of mine that we grew up together when we were younger, and he just happened to be in Alaska. And so I graduated high school, and I wasn't doing anything. I was actually, I was working as a telemarketer. Don't judge me. And I really wasn't doing anything. I didn't have a path to travel. I didn't have any plans of where to go, what to do. And so I called him one day just out of the blue just to see what he was doing. And he's like, well, I could get you a job up here cutting meat. And I was like, well, I'm not shy. I'm a quick learner. I can cut meat. That's not a big deal. So 2 days later, I had a plane ticket. I told my mom, I was like, well, I'm leaving. I'm going to Alaska. And she didn't believe me at first. She kind of like, okay, Matt, go play. And when it came time for me to fly out, I got her up at 5 a.m. and I said, Mom, I need a ride to the airport. And she's like, well, what are you talking about? I was like, well, I'm going to Alaska. I told you, I'm leaving. And the tears started. Oh my goodness, I can't believe you're doing that. Oh my, I thought you were joking. And all that. I was like, I got my guns and my clothes. I need to go to the airport. And so that's pretty much how I got to Alaska. Landed here and started working. And I've been here ever since.
So what age did you say that was?
I was 19.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely one way to do it. Just pick up and leave. Did you just like move in with your buddy, or I guess how was kind of getting started?
Yeah, I moved in with him in this little tiny cabin, and lived with him, and started working. And before I knew it, a year or so later, I was running the meat department. I was the manager of the meat department, and so I just pretty much hit the ground running and started figuring out Alaska and fell in love with trapping right out of the gate. Couldn't figure out why I didn't do it earlier, but just trying to get things figured out as far as being in a new place, which is pretty challenging because Alaska is definitely daunting when it comes to the size of it.
Yeah, that's one thing. That's definitely a crazy part of it. Huge state, but small population. So go ahead.
I think Alaska's only got like 730,000 people. I think it's population or somewhere in that area.
Wow.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Wow.
I have no idea, but that's crazy.
And the square miles, the area is like 665,000.
Yeah, that's.
So
what part of Alaska are you in?
I'm in the interior. What's called the interior. I'm almost like right in the middle of Alaska.
Okay.
So as far as like, obviously I think everybody knows the major city out there. Now I can't think of the name of it.
Anchorage.
Anchorage, yeah. So,
yeah.
I mean, is that the largest city out there?
I believe it's pretty close, if not it.
Okay, so the capital.
The capital is Juneau.
Yeah. So is that larger or right in there?
You know, I don't know that off the top of my head.
That's fine. So I
but
guess
I know.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
So as far as Alaska, kind of, I'm trying to get a whole grasp on like the whole state. Obviously, I haven't been there. I've seen it on a map. I've seen like TV shows like the Alaskan Bush people or something like that. and obviously, you got to take those type of shows probably with a grain of salt. But Alaska just seems like a crazy place. As far as just if you can explain Alaska like in like a like in a few sentences, like how would you describe Alaska?
Wild, scary. Alaska is one of the few places where you can truly, if you go in a direction, you can feel alone. You know that there's nobody within 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 miles of you.
So is it that different from like living in Montana, like just as far
Yeah.
as how
hands
people
down,
are?
Hands down different.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how you have
No,
to.
it is not. It's like Montana on crack.
Okay.
Yeah, Montana. I'm spoiled up here. You get like example, you hunt like in Montana, and you're on a river, and you've got somebody 200 yards down from you, hunting alongside you. That's acceptable. Everybody's all okay. If that happened here, I'd be like devastated. I'm so used to having everything like to myself because there's so many places to go that there's most times there's not a whole lot of competition. But
wow, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, and I'm kind of spoiled in that aspect. Sometimes it can get pretty ridiculous, but for the most part, if you get out there, you're pretty much alone.
So tell me about the mountains in Alaska. Alaska is so huge, and we all get our preconceived notions. Like when people think of Kansas, they think of completely flat, which it's not all that way. And so when I think of Alaska, I think of mountains, and I think of ocean, bays and stuff. And I know Alaska's massive, so you're a long ways from the ocean. What about the mountain ranges? Is the mountains cover Alaska, or just a part of Alaska?
No, there's a couple mountain ranges. I think there's like 3 mountain ranges. I don't know exactly, but it's kind of you got the Brooks Range, which is a huge mountain range. Huge mountain ranges. They're amazing, beautiful, and they always got snow on them. Then there's rolling mountains. There's wetlands. There's river bottoms. There's tundra. There's everything. There's heavy forested areas. There's other areas, like I said, are just tundra and flat and muskeg and swamps, and it's there's a lot here.
Can you visibly see mountains from where you live?
Yes, I'm surrounded by
mountains. You're surrounded by mountains, and mountains that are above timberline.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. If I drive, I don't know, 30 miles south, I'm in the mountains where there's no trees at all.
Okay.
It's just like tundra, mountains. Yeah.
And is most of that public open?
Yes.
All of it.
Yeah.
So where you're at, you can pretty much everything around you is public?
For the most part, yeah.
Wow.
Yep. It's either federal or public.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the only private land, pretty much, just like people's personal dwellings, or there's not like big ranches or anything like that in Texas. It's just wide open spaces, and you can walk anywhere you want and hunt.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's pretty well. It's pretty open.
Yeah, that's phenomenal. So
can we, Jordan? I don't know what's on the list. I can't wait to just dive into the duck hunting in this area, but keep me off that until you want to talk about it.
No, we can. Yeah, we'll hit up the lightning round and we'll jump right to kind of talking about his waterfowl season. So Lightning round, quick questions, quick answers helps us to get to know you a little bit better as a duck hunter. So let's jump on into it. First off, what gun do you shoot?
I shoot a Stoeger M3500.
And what kind of ammo do you run?
Rio. Love the Rio. 3-inch number 4 shot.
Is that for ducks and geese?
Yep, I use it for everything.
Nice.
Crane, geese, ducks. It brings them all to the fore.
Awesome. And then do you have a favorite type of habitat or terrain to hunt for waterfowl?
I don't. I love it all. If it's a barley field that's been cut and you're hunting ducks in barley, or a cut field, that's cool. If it's a swamp, I love it. If it's a pond, I love it. If it's in the ocean, as long as there's birds flying, I don't really care where I'm at.
Do you have a preference on sea ducks, puddle ducks, or divers, or cranes, or swans, or anything you can hunt out there?
This last season was the first time I ever went brant hunting out in Cold Bay at Cold Bay Adventure Lodge, and I'm telling you, I think that might be my new favorite. You're only allowed to shoot 2 of them, so it makes the hunt pretty quick. But the birds are in there by the tens of thousands, and it'll blow your mind.
Crazy.
Yeah. So I think that's my new fave, and they taste phenomenal too. I'll compare it to a tenderloin steak. I'll go as far as I'll say that, because yeah, I loved them. They were so delicious. I just finished eating the last of them 2 days ago.
Yeah, that's I saw that on your channel. That's or your content, I should say. Definitely, I have not tried one yet, so I'm putting that in the bucket list as well. Getting on some
it's
cranes.
A must.
Awesome.
No, that was Brant, not Crane.
Oh, Brant. I thought for some reason. Okay.
The Pacific Brant.
Brant, huh? Now I have
Cranes
not heard
aren't
that.
bad. Cranes aren't bad, but I don't think they're as good as everybody says they are.
Okay.
In my opinion.
Wow. Well, I will put Brant on my bucket list too. Bucket list is growing. Alrighty. Well, let's go ahead. Let's talk about a typical waterfowl season in Alaska. So, Elliot, I know you're itching. You got something specific you want to dive into on this?
Yeah, I do. So what I'd like you to do is start the beginning of your waterfowl season and progress this to the end, and in there talk about the migration as well. So how does it start? When does it start? Like here and where I hunt, we start in September, it's teal. Then the bigger ducks, is we have different waves of different kind of ducks as they come through different times of year. And so just what is the whole overview of waterfowl hunting in your area of Alaska look like?
Okay, so waterfowl in Alaska. Alaska is broken up into 5 different zones. The zone I'm in is, right in the middle. You're allowed 10 ducks per day. The season starts September 1st. Alaska has 28 different species of ducks that reside in Alaska, nest here, and live here before they fly south. So beginning of the season, September 1st, it's a madhouse. You're watching the weather intently to wait for birds to come through. You'll get your first good shoots out of resident birds that nested in the area, and then they seem to kind of clear out the first couple of weeks.
And what type of birds are we talking here? What species are we talking at that time?
We're talking gadwall, pintail, widgeon, both kinds of teal, lessers, graders. I'm missing all sorts of ducks, pintails.
Okay. And these are nesting birds in the area.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
They'll nest in the area, and it'll happen.
And so, do you guys have? Where do they nest? Do you guys have grasslands and what kind of habitat in that? Because I've got in my mind all forest and mountains, so I'm trying to where would they nest in this area?
So Alaska actually has, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the largest wetlands in the United States. I think they're at 170 million acres of wetlands.
Okay.
The interior, a lot of it's swamp, surrounded
Mm-hmm.
by huge mountains and tundra and swamp and more potholes. So there's water everywhere.
Gotcha.
Which is, great nesting habitat for all those birds. But like I was saying, the first 2 weeks you'll blow out all those resident birds and you shoot them up and they take off, and then you're waiting for weather to push everything from the north to the south. And that's really what you're watching, and that's what I watch. I don't know if a lot of guys do it, but I pay close attention to the weather, and I want to be in front of that weather because the birds are in front of the weather. They're being pushed down because of everything freezing up north and the wind currents pushing them south-southeast and pushing them through Alaska and out of Alaska as things freeze. Okay, so later September, you're getting different birds in. You're getting all the birds from up north, and every once in a while an oddball, like this year I shot a long-tail hen. I'd never seen one before. Totally had me for a loop, but it was insanely lost and wound up in my decoys. And so, end of September, things are starting to freeze up. More and more birds are just flooding in here, and we're talking there'll be thousands in a day, be here one day, gone the next. So you really want
to.
And
this is in October. This is October.
Yeah, late September, early October. Like you're just watching the weather, birds are moving through, and you got to catch them as they're here because they're not staying here. They're just they'll loaf overnight or for a day or two, and then they're gone.
Okay, let me stop you for a second. I want to fully understand and experience this season with you. When you start September 1st, what are your temperatures, average temperatures at that time?
You're looking anywhere from low 40s to 60s to I've even had 70s.
Okay, so average 40 to 60-ish, not real cold. So then it goes from there to freezing out in a month in October.
Yes, and it happens, and when it happens quick. It's like we don't really have a fall. It goes from summer to snow. And so the temperature, as you're getting closer to October, is dropping, and it's forcing birds, like I was saying, as things freeze up to move out because there's no open water. And so it can happen. It can happen late. It can happen early. You really don't know. It seems like every season is different. Last year, for example, I hunted all the way up to, I believe it was almost November before the water got to a point where it was frozen and there weren't, a huge number of birds. You will have a few resident birds that will, find an open patch of spring water someplace and stay there, but it's kind of hard to go out there when it's 20 below, kind of thing and hunt ducks.
So do you have a lot of birds kind of staying on the rivers when it gets that cold? Because it feels like it kind of stink if your season you froze out like early October. You only get like 5 weeks of hunting.
I'd say the average is probably 6 to 8 weeks of decent on average. You can find birds in December. I've hunted birds in December. It's not great, but there are a few around, just not a lot. And they will stick to any open water they can find.
Okay. And so mostly you kind of been, as far as like interior, we'll leave like the sea ducks and all that. Obviously it's a little bit of a different ball game, but like as far as interior, are you guys able to hunt geese very much, or what's the scene
normally,
for that?
If I had to say, you're looking at cranes and geese, the best time to hunt them is probably the first three weeks of September. Is about their time frame. They usually move out first as they're heading south, and they skedaddle pretty quick. So you get about 3 good weeks, I think, of goose and crane.
Awesome.
And what's the migration? These birds that are migrating to you, are these just birds that are nesting farther in the northern Alaska?
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm looking at the map here. How do they traverse the mountains when they migrate? Are there corridors, or do they just go straight over the mountains, or are there like corridors that they funnel through? I would think migrating over the mountains would be a job.
Some of them, like some of the geese and cranes will flow like around the Brooks Range and flow into Canada and then down. Some of them come through the passageway from the Brooks Range into the interior, and when they come through us, a lot of them, like Delta is where I live, is perfectly placed. There's a lot of agricultural land where they plant barley, so it seems like all the birds want to stop here, and so there'll be thousands and thousands and thousands of cranes and geese, just unbelievable amounts of them.
That's north and east of like the Yukon Charlie.
The what?
I'm looking at the map here. Yukon Charlie Rivers National Preserve.
South of that, I believe.
Okay.
I have to look at a map as well.
Okay. And so they're coming to you. So from how far north would they nest? Clear in just the farthest north reaches of Alaska. I mean, they would probably some birds will clear up that far.
Oh yeah, they're all the way up north. As soon as you get north, I believe, of the Brooks Range, it really flattens out, from what I understand.
Now, that when you say the Brooks Range, like I'm seeing Mount Isto and Arctic National Wildlife Refuge, Gates of the Arctic National Parks and Preserves. Is that range you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a massive range.
Yeah, it's massive. But a lot of them will flow through and funnel through, and they'll pick mountain passes. And it's quite the sight to see.
So what's it feel like to kill 10 ducks in a day?
Well, it can happen quick, or it could take you all day. I love the limit. I mean, I feel bad for everybody else because there's places that aren't afforded that kind of luxury, and for us it's 10 ducks. Well, in early September, you can't tell if it's a hen or if it's a drake. They're not plumed out. They all look the same. So you really don't know what you're shooting till it's on the ground and you're looking at it, because everything pretty much looks the same. So it's good in some ways, bad in others. I wish they were plumed out more, but I'm not going to complain. I like to eat them.
So is your
Are there any restrictions on hens?
Yeah.
No.
That's crazy.
Okay.
I did not know
I believe
that.
the only restriction is you're only allowed in that 10 bird limit. You're only allowed like 2 canvasbacks, I believe. But I've never seen a canvasback where I hunt. So.
Pintails, you can shoot 10 pintails in a day?
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Oh man, new life goal for me.
Seriously. A 10 pintail limit.
Can you imagine? Holy cow. That would be crazy.
So what is your best bag in a day? What would be, do you have a day where you're like, I shot like 10 mallard drakes, or like for me, 5 mallard drakes and a bull pintail is the grand slam for me. That's the best limit and I've shot that a couple times actually. This year was the first year I shot that limit. Do you have a day where it was just like this was your ultimate bag of ducks?
I had a day last year where I shot some really nice mallard drakes that were plumed out, and that topped it off for me. Shooting brown ducks is great and everything and fun, but there was one day in particular where I shot, I think it was 4 just stud mallards. They were just beautiful birds, and I was just like, dang, I wish I could get a pintail in here, later in the season, but they don't seem to hang around very much.
So you took us up to October, I think, and we got sidetracked a little bit because it's just so much to talk about. It starts to freeze in October, and I think you kind of stop from there. So progress from that point. Okay,
so let's go from October 1st. Weather still not bad. It can get bad, but again, you're watching the weather, and then temperature is steadily decreasing as the days go. It's now probably high of 45, give or take, with a low of maybe in the 20s. And then as October progresses, middle of October, most of the time there's snow on the ground. You got snow on the ground. You're starting to see ice. Temperatures are dropping down considerably more. It's now 15 degrees for a low, 30 for a high. Things are freezing up quick. Ducks are moving out. I spend a lot of time every day out, as many days as I can out, just waiting for birds and watching, flocks just dump in and then take off and you never see them again.
So
I had one morning this year actually, where as I was paddling out to my spot, this is middle October, I'm paddling out and it's pitch black, and I was surrounded by ducks. And when I say surrounded, I was paddling through them with my flashlight, and I'm looking around, and it sounded like a jet all around me taking off. These birds, these waves were just exploding off the water. And I got it kind of on video. It's not the best quality because I was freaking out because this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And so I'm trying to film it with my spotlight, my iPhone, and I'm trying to, but I cannot express, like, there was thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of birds on this tiny body of water. You could have thrown a rock and probably killed 5 birds. It was insane. And so I was thinking, oh, this is going to be the best day ever. This is going to be the best, just because all these birds are here. I think that morning I shot like 5 or 6 birds, and that was it. They were gone. They never came back. As soon as they took off their roost or where they were asleep, they were gone.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
just that quick.
It can happen that
now we're
quick.
into that quick, and so you're end of October.
So
it's only getting worse. It's not getting better.
So here's a question for you. I hate to derail you off this again, but kind of one thing I'm kind of curious about with daylight in Alaska. It's not the typical thing that I guess we duck hunters see in the lower 48, just due to the amount of daylight you have at this part of the year. Like, how long is the night?
Well, right now we're starting to stabilize. I think it's 6:15, and I still got a little bit of daylight outside. But as like December, January, February, you might only have 3 hours of dusk. Not even daylight, just dusk. And then it's dark again.
Dang.
And then in the summer, it's the complete opposite. You might have 2 hours of dusk, and then the sun's right back up in the sky. You don't know if it's 3 in the afternoon or 3 in the morning because it's all the same.
So during
crazy.
During your waterfowl season, so your days are really short.
No, I wouldn't say they're short. They're probably shorter than most, but I think at that time, our daylight, our darkness to sunlight ratio is probably, I'd say, average to everybody else.
Okay. That's kind of what I was getting at, because I didn't know I knew daylight was kind of different in Alaska as far as the timing, but I wasn't sure quite. So you still hunt, first thing in the morning for first light.
Yeah, you're still getting 8 hours, of good daylight.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not like you get to go out there for 2.5, 3 hours and that's it.
Yeah. All right, so now back on to November.
November, you're really trying to squeak out ducks, trying to find open water. Most everything's frozen. You're looking at -20, give or take. It all depends. Every winter is different. It can be absolutely brutal, or it can be just mild, but nonetheless, it's really hard to find open water. You might find a few patches here and there, shoot a couple of ducks, and that's it. And November 1st is when trapping season starts. So that's when I tail off of chasing ducks and go into trapping.
So really, you're full swing September, and it's winding down in October.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That puts a little damper on Alaska. Of course,
Man,
the
but
thing
it's
is,
good.
it's like you do. If you live in Alaska, you're not going to only be a waterfowl hunter. Like it's easy in the Midwest to just be a waterfowl hunter, you know.
Yeah.
But
and now,
with Alaska,
I can back this up, and I can say, okay, so where I live, the birds are for the most part, gone. I could drive 7 hours to the coast and find birds,
mm-hmm.
but it's just I can't find it feasible to drive 7 hours to the coast and to hunt ducks.
Yeah.
Because it's the weather is just atrocious, and you're driving through the mountains. The roads are bad. It's terrible. I normally get out at least once. Normally on my birthday, I go down to Anchorage and hunt with a good friend of mine, Randy Mosman, and he runs a guide service out of Whittier, Best Shot Alaska Adventures, and I usually get out with him to really chase seabirds around, because that's really my only opportunity to do that. So I like to at least do that. So there are other opportunities if a guy wanted to go the distance and go to the coast, because the temperature where I'm at versus where they're at could be 60 degrees.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
It could be it's night and day difference.
And that's just going east.
Yeah.
Now, why is that? Is that have to do with the ocean or something? If you're just on the same latitude, why would you get such an increase in temperature just by going east?
Alaska is very angry. It's the way the weather works. I couldn't tell you, but I know where I'm at. Like this year, or last year rather, we had 25 below when I left my house, and me and my buddy drove to Anchorage, which is southeast of us. Drove to Anchorage, and it was 45 and sunny. Where as we left Delta, and it was 20 below and 2 feet of snow. And so it's crazy how it can fluctuate like that. But their winters on the coast are nothing like interior winter or up north.
Okay.
This is probably a stupid question, but do they how you talked about the roads being bad? Do they even have plow trucks out there?
See, that's another tricky thing. They closed down parts like the Denali Highway. They closed that down in the wintertime just because it's not feasible to maintain it. You run a risk anytime you decide to drive through the mountains of avalanches, getting stuck out there. Things can, turn for the worst really quick. And so, one of the things I'd, tell anybody who's looking to move here or, come here in the wintertime, always have winter gear with you. Always have a way or 2 or 3 ways to start a fire, because Alaska will kill you, and it doesn't care. It could be bright and sunny one moment and a raging storm the next. It's just you really don't know.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Definitely a different environment out there in Alaska.
Yeah, sure. Before we wrap up the water time, where the birds that nest around you, how far south do they go? Are these the birds that Titus ends up shooting in California, or do they get that far south? How far do they go?
Yep. The birds I shoot up here, I believe, are Washington, California, Oregon, parts of Montana. Okay. Actually, a buddy of mine, Levi Carey, sent me a picture of a band that a friend of his, I believe, shot off of a green-winged teal that was banned 100 miles from me. Down in Wyoming, I believe it was. I could be wrong. But in that area, his buddy had shot it, and I was just like, are you kidding me? That duck made it all the way from Fairbanks, which was where they banned it, which is 100 miles north of me, all the way to there.
That is so cool.
That's 3,000 some odd miles.
Yeah, it's crazy.
that's one of the differences for me. I switched over. I grew up hunting pheasant, quail, prairie chicken. That was our main things that we were hunting and shooting. And one thing that lured me to ducks is that distance they travel. It's like they're world travelers, you know? I mean, the things that they've seen and the places they've gone, they're just such a wild, wild animal. And that is just so amazing. We shot a snow goose one time that, I can't remember, it was Iceland or Greenland. Corn's got the band, but it was banned. It's either Iceland or Greenland. And, you know, it's down
No
in Kansas.
way.
And just the thought of that is so cool. Just such a neat deal.
That's just crazy.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
insane.
Wow.
All right. Well, there is another topic that I've been itching to hear about, and you went on a moose hunt. So there's some crazy details with that. You want to go ahead and share that story?
Yeah, absolutely. So I went last year, this year, 2020, went moose hunting, flew out, had a great time, middle of nowhere. I actually had to plane, a little tiny bush plane that we flew out on. I had to lose 60 pounds so that I didn't max out the plane. Now I wouldn't call myself a big guy. I'm 6'3", and I normally run about 250 to 280. And at that time I was 288. And so I had to lose 60 pounds to be able to fly because he couldn't fly me and my gear because I maxed out the weight of his plane. And he couldn't land on the little tiny brush runway that consists of a goat path. And so dropped away. We fly in, and where we fly in, middle of nowhere. We're talking, it's no civilization at all. It's middle of nowhere, beautiful place, and touchdown. And oh, the dog freaked me out. Touchdown, and you know, I was scheduled to be there for 10 days, and I hunted hard for all 10 days. Didn't see a single moose. No moose to be found, nothing. I hunted hard, no moose, bummed out. Then trying to get out was a whole nother story. The weather where I was at was beautiful, sunny, 65, 70 degrees. Where the plane was at, 60, 70 miles away, was 60-mile-an-hour winds, and he couldn't take off. So I was stuck there. And I had planned on, maybe an extra day's worth of food, and, but I was there for 3 days extra and starting to panic. I got a little in reach, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to get out of there. Pretty stressful situation.
I kind of generally know, but what did you say? You said it was an inReach?
Yeah.
So explain exactly what that is. It's like a satellite phone or something? Yeah,
you can text. It's just a satellite phone. You get X amount of text before they start charging you millions of dollars or however that works. And so I was allowed, I think, like 10 texts. And so I was trying to be real careful about, what I was texting, try to be specific of, hey, are you coming to get me today? And nope, sorry, can't fly. And like, oh, shoot. I'm stuck. Another day. So yeah, I was there for 3 days longer than what I was supposed to be. But man, when he showed up, he didn't send a message in that he was flying in, but he dropped in, and it was a rush. He goes, "There's weather coming from the north. We have to leave, and we have to leave now, or you're not leaving for another week."
Jeez.
And so it was a madhouse. I'm throwing things in the plane. I'm like, let's go. Get out of here.
So did you go with like anybody go with you, or was that like a solo adventure?
No, I went solo. I kind of knew the area where I was at is actually the very top of what I call my Martin line, one of my long trap lines. And so I was at the very top of that. So I kind of knew the area I was in, but it wasn't, I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into. I thought for sure.
Yeah. That's crazy. Elliot, how comfortable would you be? Someone takes you, puts you in a bush plane, they fly you out to Alaska, and you got to stay out there for 10 days, and then at the end of it, they're like, well, just add 3 more onto it.
By myself?
Sorry, but we can't.
Solo.
We can't come get you.
Solo with the bears.
I think that definitely gives you validity for calling yourself the Alaskan Viking. Right there. That's all. It's like, how can you call yourself that? There you go. Right there. That's why.
I did make
10 days, 13 days by yourself.
I did make great friends with this massive shrew that was trying to steal my food. He was Boone and Crockett. I'm not kidding. When this thing was huge. He was definitely a Boone and Crockett shrew.
What's a shrew?
Shrews are disgusting. Oh, they're disgusting.
Yeah, they're. I don't know if I can. They're like a mouse, but they're not like a mouse.
Huh,
They're like in between a mouse and a mole. They're like a cross between a mouse and a mole.
Yeah. That's. And so I
stink.
actually thought it was. I thought it was a bear one night. I'm in my tent, and I'm about, you never go totally asleep because you're always listening to the sounds of the forest, wondering if something's going to jump on you. And so I'm kind of laying there, half in, half out, and I hear all this rustling, and I was like, "Oh yeah, it's on. It's game time. That's a bear. That's a bear." So I jump up and I grab my gun, and I chamber around, and I'm recon 7 here, ready to go. And I unzip my tent real slow, and I shine my light out, and I'm waiting to see a big furry bear right in front of me. That's what I was expecting. And I shine the light out, and I pop out of the tent. I'm ready to go. And I'm looking around, and there's nothing there. And I was like, well, what the heck? And I look down, and this shrew, this massive, massive shrew, had my soup can and was making a run for it.
I can't imagine they're very fat.
The soup can was as big as he was.
He was carrying it.
And he was running off with that dang thing. He had a hold of it. He was trying to drag it through the willows and whatnot. I'm like, you dirty rat! Jumped out there, grabbed it. But after that, he kept popping up. I kept feeding him odds and ends of scraps or whatever I had. At the end of it, we became pretty good friends.
So, Jordan, let me recap the beginning of that story. I was out by myself. I'd been there for 7 days. I thought a massive grizzly was at my tent. I jumped out to fight it, and it was a shrew.
Yep.
Take some balls.
A big shrew. A Boone and Crockett shrew. Not a little shrew, a Boone and Crockett.
The fact that you were Joe, man, hey, if I'm going down, that bear's going to get it. Here we go, bear.
Yeah.
So I was stoked after not seeing any moose, man. I was ready for a bear. I was like, let's do this, man. It's game time.
So do you ever get over that kind of feeling at night, like being able to sleep out there? Because I was kind of wondering the same thing. Like, obviously my perspective is a little off. All I've seen is like TV shows, and you see people put up like lines for bears to like warn you if they're coming in or whatever. But it's like, do you ever get that peace of mind? Sleeping
I would
out there.
say no. Every time I've ever camped out, out in the woods or whatever, I don't ever really sleep. I close my eyes and I'm resting. I don't really sleep. Just because you don't know if something's going to walk up on you.
Yeah.
And I don't trust those bear fences at all, but I figure I'm going to hear them coming through my tent, and I've got a gun. So, roll the dice.
So do you have, in the area where you duck hunt, do you have massive grizzlies in that area?
I'd say no. I'd say you might see one, but it's not. I'd say it'd be pretty rare. I'd be more worried about a moose, killing me than a bear.
Mm.
I've had cow moose chase me across the lake in my car, and that is no joke. I don't know what she was mad about or why she was mad, but she, pinned eyes on me, and she came across that lake, and she was swimming right at me. I'm like, huh, this is new.
So
I saw a chart recently about how many human kills each animal has, and the moose was pretty high up on that list. They're pretty aggressive, aren't they?
They are. They You know, like I'd be more worried about being killed by a moose than I would ever a bear.
That's crazy. So with the weight limit though, if you shot a moose, I mean, how do you get that back?
He flies it out in pieces.
Okay.
We quarter it up, and he'll throw like a leg and a rib section in there. Fly that out, come back, grab another leg, another rib section, fly that out, come back, grab a front shoulder and a back strap, fly out, come back. And so that's why he wanted to make sure that I was underweight, so he didn't have to burn any more gas than he had to get me out there.
Mm-hmm.
I could have gone at 280, and he could have gone in there and landed and came back and got my gear and flown back and dropped it off. But he was doing it as a favor for me, so I didn't want to have to put any more pressure on him to get me out than what was necessary.
Yeah, definitely different things to think about that we don't have to on a daily basis. So that's definitely pretty crazy. I'm super intrigued by just the whole Alaska lifestyle experience, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, let's hit up some trapping. I know Elliot, you're kind of curious about that.
I'm curious about the wolves is what I'm specifically curious about. Just wolves in general, like daily life, your thoughts about them, your feelings about them, their habits, trapping them, what you do with them after you trap them, just the whole gamut. I'm super interested about that topic.
Wolves are amazing animals. Their downfall is their predictability. The only hard thing about trapping wolves is finding them. Really, that's the only hard part. There might be only 5 wolves in a 80 square mile area, give or take.
Wow.
They're huge runners. They're constantly moving and going and looking for food and this and that. They've got a really strong family unit, a pack, as they call it, that they stay with. And this pack will, run what's called their circuit, their area, their pattern of travel, hunting and killing moose and caribou and whatever they can get their hands on, and living their best life, kind of thing. But wolves are pretty intimidating if you've ever seen one up close and alive. They're amazing animals. I love trapping them. Trapping them they're probably one of my favorite things to trap. I don't trap a lot of them just because there's not a lot of them where I'm at. Like right now, I've got a wolf set out that I have to check this Sunday, and the wolves haven't been there in almost a month. They came through once, and I patterned where they were going, and I thought I had it figured out. Put traps out, got it all rigged up, and they haven't been back since. Are they going to come back? Yeah. Before season ends? Maybe not. I don't know. They move so much. You might only get one shot at them.
So 2 things. Number one, general population of Alaska, do they have a negative perception of wolves or positive? Sounds like yours is pretty positive, the way you're talking about them. And 2, what type of trap do you use, and how does that work?
I use snares, mostly. They're lightweight. They're easy to use, easy to conceal. I find it's a lot easier to catch them with snares than steel traps. I think the consensus on wolves, I think they got a pretty bad rap. Everybody says a good wolf is a dead wolf. I believe there's a place for everything. I wouldn't want to see all the wolves gone because then I couldn't trap them anymore. I think they do need to be managed because if there's too many of them, they absolutely decimate a population of moose or caribou really quickly. So I think management's key. Trappers do a great job at managing wolf numbers through trapping, and so a lot of people, I think, in Alaska especially, view trappers as wildlife management people to aspect like that.
Awesome. Yeah, that's definitely a cool animal to be chasing and trapping and all that, and definitely definitely crazy. So something that's totally out of my kind of realm of even thoughts on. So
they're awesome.
Yeah.
I love wolves. They have that, and they're that last wolf I caught this year. I had it sold before I even got it to the house. It was a guaranteed $350. So
wow.
It helped.
I lost audio. I lost audio for a second, so I didn't quite hear what you said. But do you tan the hides and just sell the hides for that $350?
No, what I do is I skin them and I flesh them and I dry them. Okay, and so I flesh them or I skin them for what's called taxidermy purposes. So they have everything's intact: their claws, their lips, their eyelids, everything's intact, and it's dried and it's preserved. And then what happened next is, somebody wants to get it mounted, they send it off, get it tanned, and then the taxidermist can, work with it and put it on the form and all that good junk. But all I do is skin them and dry them.
Coloration's not typical?
So what's that?
What color are they typically?
I'd say the most average color is gray. And then they can vary in all sorts of different colors. I've seen what's called a blue wolf that actually looks blue. I'm not even kidding. White to all different colors of black, all different colors of white and gray and ivory. And I think the color variation, I think every wolf is unique. They all have their own little color variation. Like I caught one black wolf a couple of years ago that I wish I'd kept, but I didn't. I got an offer for $500 for it, so I sold it. But it was jet black. It was black as black could be, except for the tip of his tail was white.
Wow.
And I'd never seen a wolf like that before. And it was really pretty, beautiful wolf. But they can vary in colors to, there's all sorts of different colors they can be.
Awesome. Well, I think this is probably a good place to go ahead and wrap this one up. Man, honestly, we didn't even touch the whole list we had on here. There's a ton of different things we could have kept going on. Alaska, on my bucket list. If it wasn't already, it is even more so now. Just something about the wild wilderness, I don't know. There's just something about it. I don't know if I'm going to be as ballsy as you and go out into the bush by myself for 13 days at any point in my life, but I think that
I think everybody's got to do it at least once.
Yeah.
At least once.
Yeah. It's it definitely would be. It would test you as a person. So, kudos to you on that. But go ahead, let people know where they can find you across social media or all that good stuff on that.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook at the Alaskan Viking, Instagram the Alaskan Viking, and YouTube the Alaskan Viking.
Awesome, Elliot. You got any last words?
One more wolf question. I can't help myself. I'm so fast. Do they ever actually harm humans?
I think wolf attacks are very, 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 very rare.
But they do happen.
Extremely rare. I've heard of one instance in the 20 years I've been here, and they say it's because that wolf was suffering from some sort of, disease.
Gotcha. Okay.
But I
had to get that one more question in.
The most dangerous animal in Alaska, I'd have to say, hands down, is moose.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Great conversation. Great. I loved it.
We could talk about Alaska for, it's so big and there's so much to cover. It's hard to cover everything like you were saying.
Yeah. Well, we'll definitely have to have you on here again, cover some of these more details and different topics. But really appreciate you coming on tonight, man. Like Elliot said, awesome conversation. I learned a lot about Alaska, and I think